I remember a particular instance from a previous life. I went to my data team requesting data. We met, I gave them what I needed. They said, we can have it to you in 6 weeks. I don't have 6 weeks. I'm trying to make a decision on how to move forward. I need it today. In a real-time data organization, that is instant. It's not 6 weeks, it's probably not even 6 seconds.
In this emerging world of exponential technologies, data is everything. It fuels AI, drives automation, and enhances decision-making. It helps satisfy consumer demand for personalized experience and enables innovation of new products and services. The traditional data practice has failed to keep pace. It is skill deficient, siloed, and unable to unlock real value. Leaders have no choice but to level up their data practice to meet the demands of this new era. Joining me today is co-author of Define a Data Practice Strategy to Empower an Autonomous Enterprise, Principal Research Director Vince Mirabelli. Vince, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, Jeff, anytime.
Maybe right off the bat, Vince, I want to talk about the title of this research that we've got here. Define a Data Practice Strategy to Power an Autonomous Enterprise. It's a long title. It's a very deliberate title, though.
Yes.
So can you walk me through kind of how we got here and what we're really trying to say here?
Yeah. So if I had to boil it down to a sentence or two, what I would say is this blueprint and that title specifically is all about the future of the data practice in organizations and how we can't just be producers of reports anymore. It's about empowering the whole organization, not just a silo of data, but the whole organization to really achieve the benefits and leverage the opportunities of the exponential technology that data enables.
Why do leaders need to care about this? Why now? What's kind of the impact?
Data is the key that unlocks everything. This was true before, and it becomes even more true as we adopt new technologies like AI, like machine learning, quantum computing. Data is the key that unlocks the capabilities of those.
Right.
Without data, you can have AI, but it's not going to be very effective. You can have quantum computing, but it's not going to give you the results and the support that you are paying for. And so data becomes critically important, not only in the data practice, which traditionally have been the stewards of data, but also for the entire organization in leveraging that data to make informed decisions on the future of that organization.
So organizationally, what benefits does adopting this approach afford? And on the flip side, what are the risks or the drawbacks of ignoring this and continuing to do things the same old way?
One thing it really does, and again, that title was very deliberate. It's about enabling the data organization and the data enterprise. And so we take data from being in that ivory tower and really enable it across the organization so that anyone can leverage data to make those decisions. The risks of not doing that mean that you are not going to be making informed and timely decisions.
Right.
And so, the closer you can get to achieving that data currency, that real-time data enablement, allows you to make decisions and take advantage of situations that as they arise. I remember a particular instance from a previous life where I was working on a particular project and I went to my data team requesting data. We met, I told them what I needed. They said, cool, we can have it to you in 6 weeks.
Wow.
I don't have 6 weeks,
Yeah.
right? I need it today. So because I'm trying to make a decision on how to move forward.
Right.
I don't have 6 weeks. And so, we need to, I was conditioned to, 6 weeks, that's the time, that's the SLA. In a real-time data organization, that is instant. It's not 6 weeks, it's probably not even 6 seconds, right? I have access and I can use data to make decisions, but I need to be very deliberate in structuring the organization to enable that to happen because it doesn't just happen overnight.
So one of the key insights that came out of this research is, effectively that data is everything, right? And it's only becoming more important. What does data mean now for the business strategy, and how is it serving as an enabler?
So again, data is everything. It allows us to make decisions. It allows us to guide future projects, products, services, and really enables organizations to be successful. And so without that, it's like throwing darts in the dark. I can throw a dart at a general direction of a dartboard and hope that I hit. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. But with data, I turn the lights on, and I know I can aim for a particular particular spot.
Another key insight that we've got is that tools and technology here, maybe it's a compelling place to start, but it's not the right place to start. And that, defining the value stream or thinking about, the consumption of data is probably a better place to start. Can you, maybe elaborate or shed some light on that?
Yeah, so thinking about data in the value stream and how it's consumed by our customers, but also what value that data delivers. Because not all data is equal, right? There are some data elements that are more important because they drive customer behavior, or they help us make a particular type of decision that is aligned to our strategy. And so understanding the value stream and how that data moves through the organization, how it is consumed, how it is created, how it is stored, how it is leveraged, how the data exists is important. And that then ties back to this need for articulating the strategy. And so part of this blueprint was also about redefining the data practice strategy to be able to successfully leverage data for the purposes of enabling those exponential technologies.
Where do skills come into play here? I know we've got an insight around the changing needs around skills. What's the role of skills?
Data is not just in a particular silo or a particular team. And so we need to, in order for us to achieve that real-time data status that I referenced earlier, we need to have the skills, the knowledge, the abilities, the capabilities throughout the organization, not just localized in a particular team. And so what we need to do is combine not just business skills, but also the technical skills, and marry those together in our people. It's similar to what I would describe around AI. Like, AI is just becoming the way that work is done. And so there's a need for a general baseline knowledge in leveraging AI and AI tools. The same thing is going to apply with data. And so understanding how I can use data, how I can leverage data to drive decision making, and then ultimately how I can use it to grow the organization. And that starts with defining the strategy for my data practice, right? What is the mission of my data practice? Why do I exist? What is the vision of my data practice? What do I want to be when I grow up? These are questions that I need to answer first before I can get to that end state.
But I also hear implications in terms of org structure, in terms of the, if I can call it the intimacy between, the data team and, the actual business functions, if you even split them out anymore, and the need for that business acumen in the, in the data team. Is that fair?
I think that's potentially true. I think every organization is free to structure themselves however they need, but recognize that if you've got that team that is responsible for data and they're localized, siloed, that becomes a constraint or a bottleneck to that decision-making process, to that access to data. And so one of the things that we talk about in the blueprint around enabling those skills, those behaviors, that knowledge, is really about allowing the organization to go fast in making decisions. I no longer need to go to my data team and wait 6 weeks. Right? I can go get the data myself. I can do what I need to do, and go forward.
Should the business and data teams operate as a single team in your mind?
Organizations are free to structure themselves how they want, but to me, I think having a data person or the data capability is more important than how they are set up from an HR perspective. So, I might want to have a data person on every project, product, service that I'm working on. I may want to embed I'm going to keep doing this in data people within every line of business that is there as a support, is there to enable that decision making. And this is particularly true in organizations where maybe they're slower to adopt that change, or they might be larger, monolithic type organizations that I am this is my role and I don't do the data, I ask for the data.
Right.
So there may be a need, but what we want to enable is as rapid access to that data as possible. Right. Whether that's the individual doing it or having someone close enough to each line of business, to each project, to each product, so that we can enable that data to enable decision making.
And that, I think, segues us really nicely into the next insight we talked about, which is real-time data as if I can call it like almost a North Star, right? To what degree is that true? To what degree does that need to be a guiding principle, and what's kind of the implication there?
Yeah, to me, I think that real-time data is that North Star. It's the destination. We may never get there. And that's the goal, though. Yeah. And so what that becomes is our target. And so we need to then look at, from a strategic perspective, but then align to, what tactics are going to use to get there. What do we need to do? What do we need to change in our organization? Could be people, process, technology, behaviors. But what do we need to change in order to allow that to happen? And so that's what we should be striving towards. And it's not a one-week journey, right? It takes time to get there, but that should be our goal.
As we look at the organizations that we're actually speaking with, what's the maturity level we're seeing here in terms of their data practice and their readiness to take on a change like this and be prepared for this new world?
I would say that at this point, it's a relatively low maturity. Organizations are thinking about this, but they're also thinking about everything else that's going on in their businesses. Where I think this should come to the forefront is as more and more organizations start to adopt AI, they're going to have to recognize the need and the importance of data. And so my hope is that these organizations quickly mature. But I would say at this point, the level of maturity is quite low, which you could look at as a negative, but I choose to look at it through the positive lens of we've got a lot of opportunity that we can take advantage of. And there's a lot of folks that Infotech can help with this blueprint.
Joining me on our panel today, practice lead Ari Glazel, research director Irina Sedenko, and principal research director Vince Mirabelli. Thanks everyone for joining me. As we talk about, this new data practice strategy, one of the concepts in this is this notion of data as a product. And I wanted to dig into that a little bit. What does that really mean, and how does it differ from how we've talked about data in the past? Irina, maybe I'll start with you.
We are talking about data and as a product, but also data products, right? So there's some subtle differences between data as a product and data products. So what is data products? We can say that our reports that we traditionally build within the organizations is a data product. Sure. So our dashboards are data products. But also it can be a raw data. Raw data is also a data product. So we really need to define how we are using our data. What is the business value of each of those data products? Who will be consuming those data products? How we can manage those data products? Because when we start talking about data products, that also means that we need to adopt that product mentality, meaning that we need to set up the product life cycle. What is the life cycle of that product? What is the life cycle of that dashboard or report or the raw data? Who is consuming that data product, right? So we need to also set up, how we are going to manage our data products, how we are going to develop them further. So what will be the new features and maybe within those data products. So that's really why we are talking about this data products because within this blueprint, because it's a change of mentality of how we are looking and working with data.
I agree for the most part with what Irina said. I actually take issue with some of the terminology being used. Data as a product, I look at as a methodology and a set of practices and techniques in order to deliver data products to the organization. I don't look at data as a product as a thing. It is, it is really the tactics you bring to play in order to produce a set of data products.
Right.
Those data products, have a set of attributes associated with them, both in terms of technical attributes and and other more maybe more soft attributes around it. Does it have is there a roadmap associated with this data product? Who owns this data product? There's a number of things around, like for example, security and discoverability and maintainability that deal with the attributes of this thing that is called a data product. But I look at data product as an end state, not the ultimate end state, but as the end result of data as a product practices that come into play.
Agree. I'm not arguing with that.
Good.
Anything to add?
No, I think you two hit the nail on the head. I'm good. I don't say that very often, by the way. I have a lot of opinions.
I want to talk a little bit about, one of the insights we've got here, which is that data and the business should operate without silos as a single team. How true is that, and what does that really mean?
We are talking in the blueprint about breaking those silos, and that the data practice, we are talking about the data practice as a concept. There is one only section in the blueprint that talks about teams and how we can actually break those silos and what are the skills that we need to improve within each and every team. So within the business teams versus the IT team, so that we can build that practice that spans across technology and business teams. So that's really what the key component that we introduce in this blueprint is the practice, is the definition of the data practice, and how it will change the way how we are working with the data products, with analytics products, and AI products as well.
I used a very specific word when we were speaking earlier, which was embedded, and I saw you have a reaction to this word. So you don't necessarily see this as being embedded. You still see it as, living within the data practice. Is that fair?
Ari wants to say something.
Yeah, it's so there's a connotation as to what we mean by embedded, right? So some, you can have practices that are embedded. You can have people that are embedded.
Right.
What a future that we don't see is, you have. Data scientists and other people of that sort being distributed out to the teams and living in those teams. They would of course work with different teams, but they wouldn't live there. Now, what does get embedded though, and that is a data literacy, an understanding of good data practices, an appreciation that the business that they own, that there is an ownership from the business side of the data that they have. Those practices should be spread throughout and not just thrown over the fence to the data team to deal with. So, it depends on our definition of embedded. But in terms of people embedding, less of that. It's more about the practices and the attitudes around data.
I see that as a challenge, though, because first of all, I think some organizations will struggle with giving up the power of data to each team, because then I'm reliant on each team having the same level of maturity, capability, and what do I do? So I understand, having the team or the line of business owning data, but what about data that crosses boundaries? Who owns it? And so I see it as a possible state, And I think it's what we should strive to. I think the concept of data literacy, 100% on board. I think it should be just base knowledge. But I do see challenges with being able to bring this to reality where some organizations will say, we have a data team, why do our business partners need to know the data?
So let me ask this question then. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's lots of challenges out there, right? I had challenges getting out of bed in the morning. That doesn't mean I shouldn't do that. So in this case here, are you saying that they shouldn't be doing that? That we shouldn't be breaking down those silos?
No. I think not at all. And I have similar challenges, Ari. I think that becomes a goal, but let's recognize that some organizations will struggle with that change in their data model and how data is governed and managed. And so some organizations will adopt it quickly, and they will be the beneficiaries of that shared knowledge. I just want to flag that some organizations will struggle, and I'm thinking of larger organizations that are legacy businesses. That's the way we've always done it.
I understand. So that will be the challenge, but we have to break those challenges. Like we have to overcome them, and that's what we need to strive for. Like we need to strive to break in those silos between business and technology. Business has to own data. Business has to own all the projects that have data component attached to it, or data or analytics. So because in the end of the day, why we are working with data, because we need to solve business strategic problems, because we need to provide data for the business decision making. Data by itself, right, so means nothing unless it is used for the business purposes. So, and that business purpose has to be driven by business. So what we see as we were doing research for this blueprint, those organizations that managed to shift that ownership for the data products, if you wish, right? So for the data decisions to the business stakeholders, those organizations usually succeed. Right. So, and they succeed in taking advantage of that exponential development of the technology, of the evolution of data, how the data is evolving. So if we want to take that advantage, like we cannot be within those silos. Like we have to change the way how we are operating within that data practice, so that we can take advantage of the data.
I think looking at this through the lens of the data practice, it makes sense to me that our first thought is, well, we need to kind of evangelize data literacy throughout the broader organization. To what degree, though, is it a two-way street, and we need to have that business acumen, bleed more into the data team as well? Is it, how important is that relative to data literacy?
We have to, as technology teams, right? So we have to stop coming to business and asking, hey business, what data you need? Or what report you need, or what dashboard you need. Instead, we need to learn how to talk to business language, and really come with them, hey business, what are the problems that you are trying to solve? What are you trying to achieve in the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years? What are the challenges that you have? So how we can help you with the technology, but first explain us what are the problems, what is the project that you are driving right now on the business side. Right. So that's what we need to learn, how to communicate with business in the business language.
Right.
And I think that's how we transition from being document report creators to actual true partners and enablers.
This is being that trusted partner, where it's not that conversation isn't anything special. It's just how you operate, right? It's part of my, part of your job is as a tech, if you're deep into the technology, you're deep into the data, is you have partners on the, with the business, and it's not a special event to go in and talk to them. You are continually talking with them, And this is no different. And this is no different. I'm interested from the panel if there is a difference. I don't see there's being a difference between that kind of relationship between business and technology here versus in a general product management context, in an agile context, or in any of those similar IT versus business contexts. I see this as the same kind of relationship with a similar kind of barriers that need to come down.
Yeah. I'll look at it through the business analyst lens of stakeholder management, and I'll ask, when is stakeholder management happening? When is stakeholder engagement happening? And the real answer is always. And so I think that's true in this case as well. That engagement, that communication, it just becomes a natural part of our discussions and our engagement. It's not, to Ari's point, a special event of, I'm going to set up a meeting with you to talk about your data requirements.
Right. Right. It's just the way you do business.
It's just the way you do business.
So, we had a brief conversation earlier about, I guess, kind of the current state out there, the current maturity or readiness for data organizations. And I think for a lot of data organizations out there, this is a night and day kind of mindset shift from the way they're doing business. I mean, first of all, do we agree with that notion? And second of all, if we're going to start moving in this direction, how do we get started? How do we kind of get that ball rolling or that momentum? And is there a real appetite for that, do we think?
How do we get the ball rolling? First of all, and it is in our blueprint, so we really need to define first the capabilities, the business capabilities from the business perspective. How data practice delivers value to the organization. So what are those steps? What is that value delivery mechanisms, if you wish? And when you start mapping those capabilities, we will realize that it's not just the technology team. So most of those capabilities are shared. The ownership of those capabilities will be shared between the technology and business stakeholders. That's how we will start seeing where we need to break those silos. What are the skills that we need to build on both sides, on the technology side and the business, to create that true synergy between business and technology? So, and also how we can start defining those data products that we talked about in the very beginning. What is, again, the evolution of data all the way from the data product to the real-time enterprise, as you will see in the blueprint, and what that really means, that real-time enterprise. And then finally, when we know what we need to change within the organization, we'll create a roadmap.
Real-time enterprise is kind of the North Star that we're aiming for here. Obviously that's much more desirable than, a team's going to take 6 weeks to kind of build a report for you. What are the implications, though, for the roles on the data team as we approach real time? Do we still need these scientist roles, these analyst roles? What does that team then look like?
Well, absolutely. We still need that scientist team, and we still need the data team, because we need to enable the real-time acquisition of data, real-time processing of data, so real-time decisions, right? So we just talked today about data quality and why data quality is important, and the data quality. Well, here we need to automate a lot of the data management capabilities, a lot of the data processing capabilities. So there is a lot of considerations on the technology side so that we can enable that real-time enterprise. But also what it means is that using the data to create a map of our organization, and that map will be a real-time map where it will demonstrate us not only the consequences of our decisions, if we make that decision, how that decision affects the rest of the organization, but also we will be able to see any of the inefficiencies within our organization, again, on multiple different levels. Inefficiencies within our resource allocation or our processes. So, or any of that, even technology distribution, how we use technology. So we can start building that model, that digital model, data model of the organization. So that's really that North Star.
I'd like to add to what Irina said here. It's the roles don't go away, but the roles do change, right? You're going to find that now with AI and different assisting technologies. Again, there's a creativity aspect to those roles. There's that higher level, that higher level version of being with respect to those roles that's going to be possible now. The real-time enterprise. When we look at it, for an example of around a digital twin, right? Before, you would never even think of doing that at the scale of the organization. It was only done in a manufacturing context before, because again, talk about a different scale here. But now, if you have assisting technologies able to push down the mundaneness, I'll call it, of the work, and let the creativity of the data scientists and these different roles, and I'm not talking necessarily like an artist on a canvas, but really the higher level thinking that they're able to do, and the higher level connections of different groups together now comes into the realm of the possible. So this is, it's all extremely exciting, and the opportunities for the future is great. And that brings us back to what we talked about at the beginning, and that starts with the foundation of effective data products.
And I think all of that is enabled because of what you just described, by removing that non-value, the lower value activities. I'm freeing up time for that creativity. I'm now giving the data team and that capability time to be creative, to be critical, to be thoughtful, where they might have spent time in the past compiling data so that they could run a report. Now they don't need to, and I think that is massive for data teams in the future.
Is every data practice ready to go on this journey, or are there certain prerequisites that are needed from a maturity perspective? And if so, what are they?
I think that there's still a lot of work that needs to be done in any organization to really truly build that data practice. And again, I will go back to the fact that we deliberately talk about practice, not the team. So each and every organization need to assess where they are on this journey to that North Star. So what are the capabilities that they need, what the capabilities that they need to build, capabilities and skills. So there's still quite a bit of work. So we did, as we were working on this blueprint, so we did interview some organizations that are more mature than other, but overall, on average, there's still a lot of work that needs to be done.
I would add, I think every organization would benefit from this blueprint. From a maturity perspective, some may start further down the road, but everyone has the opportunity to get on the road and start making positive motion.
So I don't know if I agree with that. The research as it's laid out right now is really focused on organizations that have some form, they're able to operate in some way, that they have some coherent operating ability when it comes to managing of their data, the acknowledgement of data being there, and they're more in a position to be able to take advantage of this research in order to be able to drive to this exponential IT future. But there are some basic capabilities, and Infotech has a fair amount of research around it, and around data management and data governance that's important, and an overall data strategy that's important that you need to have in place really. Before you go to this exponential IT future. I don't necessarily see this as, I have one app and the data is sitting in some binary blob there. I don't know nothing about it, and I want to go to exponential IT future. That's not quite the right time. We would probably, if you came to us and we did calls with you, we would probably suggest a different path for you, where this is a critical part of that path, but this isn't the first step on that path.
I actually totally agree, yes.
Okay.
I agree. Yeah, usually, but I agree.
Yeah,
with
usually you
this
don't.
Yes.
But okay, so just following that thread for a minute, if someone is watching this and they're like, I don't think I'm mature enough for this journey, I need like a step 1 or a step 0.
Step 0, yes.
Where should they start?
Data management.
Data management 101, if we can call it that? Yeah, wonderful. Thank you, everybody. So, talk to me a little bit about this blueprint, about this methodology. What are the phases? How would you walk through this?
Yeah, so it's divided into 4 phases. First phase is all about the vision and the mission, right? Back to something that I said earlier. Mission, why do I exist, right? vision, why should I exist in the future, and what do I want to be when I grow up? And so the first phase of this blueprint is all about helping the member define those things, right? What is my strategy? What do I want to be, and why do I need to exist? In the second phase, we look at the people involved, and so there's the skill gap, right? So helping the member identify what is the skill gap that exists, and what can I do to address or to close some of those gaps. In the third phase, we start to look at, through a strategic lens, data as a product. And so what does that mean? How can we treat data as a product, right? What does that mean? And so how can we take the data that we use and productize it, and also recognize that, again, all products are not equal. Some data is going to be more valuable to me than other data. And so how can I take advantage of that? How can I leverage that? And how can I continue to use that to evolve my business? We're growing the capabilities of data in the organization. So it's not just about having that data capability in a particular team, but also growing it across the organization, right? So that everyone has that capability. In the fourth phase, this is where we're building out our roadmap. So we've set our vision, we've identified our skill gaps, we've identified the needed capabilities and tried to grow those capabilities throughout the organization. Now let's build out a roadmap that allows us to get to that ultimate North Star of real-time data.
So walking through the methodology, what are some of the outputs or artifacts that get created along the way and actually make this concrete?
So in addition to the blueprint, there is a strategy playbook that allows the member to have a guide in achieving that objective of that real-time data. The playbook is also accompanied by a maturity and capability assessment. And so it walks through all of the pieces, all of the elements that we've talked about, the skills gap, the capabilities gap, and does an assessment of the maturity of the organization through a data strategy lens. And so you come out very self-aware of, what are some of your challenges, what are some of the things that you need to address, and really these help to populate that roadmap of where do we need to go next.
So as I think about this entire approach, this entire methodology, to me this is kind of nothing short of a transformation for the data practice, right? And so I wanted to ask you, Vince, how long does this take to do to actually roll out, and how much progress can you make in 1 week in a concentrated effort, or maybe with a workshop?
Yeah. So I would say in a week, in a workshop, you leave with a draft of that playbook, you leave with a roadmap, and you leave with a plan of what do you need to do next. So you're well set up to go forward, to move forward. I would say this is a practice that is continually evolving. And so, that real-time data state is not, I don't want to say elusive, but it's going to take time to get there. To put a timeline on it might be difficult, because I think different organizations will move faster than others.
Right.
Some are more prone and more accepting of change, and some others will resist, just as with any change. And so, this is an ongoing evolution, but in order for you to take advantage of those exponential technologies, AI, quantum computing, 5G, this is what you need. This is what every organization needs to do.
So, forget perfect for a minute. What does good look like here?
So, just like quality, the definition is in the eye of the beholder. And so what does good look like? I think it depends on where you start from. So what is your current level of maturity? But then also, what is realistic for you to achieve and I like to use the timeline of 12 to 24 months. What is reasonable for us as an organization to do in 12 to 24 months? I think good continues to evolve, because once you get to that 12-month, 24-month spot, that's no longer good enough. There's a new definition of good.
Right.
And so it is an ongoing evolution. To use the term transformation, I completely agree. It is truly transforming how organizations think about data, how they think about their data strategy, and how they set themselves up to leverage data for the future.
Vince, thanks so much for your time today and for your great insights.
Anytime, Jeff. Thank you.
And if you're interested in learning more about defining your data practice strategy to empower your autonomous organization, read the full blueprint at infotech.com.